broadcast is now starting.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy last Thursday of January. Happy first Thursday webinar of the month from us. And welcome to our inaugural episode of the 2021 webinar series with PixelMill and today's offering of the state of the, my screen was pausing, I apologize, the state of the Microsoft Empowered Digital Workspace. I've been looking forward to this session for a long time, guys, and I'm so excited to get to talk about this stuff today. We have an amazing group of people here to talk about this stuff more in depth. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, my name is Michael Wells. I'm the account manager and your partnerships and community manager at PixelMill, and I will be your host and moderator for today. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff going on today, some fun stuff for you guys, really great topics, looking forward to it. A couple quick things, if you've never joined us before, thank you so much for joining us for your first time. We appreciate it. If this is your 17th time back, hey, thank you so much for coming back for your 17th, 18th time. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, there should be a questions tab. Throw them on up in there. I'll be keeping track as the webinar goes on. I will get those questions in as best I can. We are going to save a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A, so if I don't get to them right into the moment, we will get to them toward the end. I think that's pretty much it. Let me get to the main part of today. You see some other faces up there, and let me introduce them real quick. It's a pretty amazing panel. I'm going to go from my left to right, so this is how they appear for me. Starting first, he is my boss. He is a cool guy, and he lives one town over from me, Eric Overfield. Thank you for being here, Eric. Next up, she's got a BA, an MBA, say hey, hey, from Baltimore, MA, Susan Hanley. Hi, Sue. Thanks for being here. I just came up with that.
That's awesome.
Baltimore, but that's okay.
Oh, you're not from Baltimore. I just knew it rhymed. The MA part rhymed.
Maryland, not MA. But
oh, that's right. Sorry. I was so close. Anyway. All right. And next, he is the fearless leader of VisualSP, Mr. Asif Rehmani. How's it going, sir? Thanks for being here today.
Hello.
And last and certainly least, I kid, one of my favorites, Mr. Christian Buckley. Thanks so much for being here today, Christian. This is a pretty amazing group. I'm going to let them all do a formal introduction of themselves because they'll have better things to say than I will. So guys, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll start us off. So again, as Michael said, thank you all for joining us. My name is Eric Overfield. I'm president, co-founder here at PixelMill. You can always find me at ericoverfield.com, on Twitter at Eric Overfield. And before we move on to Sue, just thank you all so much for joining us. The panelists, for sure, these are my friends, my mentors, my peers. I love them much, and I really respect their opinions. I think they'll help you. And thank you, attendees, for joining. I really think this is going to be exciting for you. We're going to set up your 2021 digital workspace experience here right now. And yeah, so let's get on with it by moving on to Sue. Please introduce who you are.
Sure. I'm Sue Hanley from Bethesda, Maryland. I am working in my home office, which is also home to my home gym. And where I spend when I'm not sitting here at my desk, I try to be on one of those machines. I am a business analyst and information architect and specialize in intranets.
Awesome. I guess I'm going to go next in the same order. So my name is Asif Rehmani. I am the fearless leader of VisualSP. Thanks very much for that, Michael. But even before VisualSP, I've always been in love with first SharePoint, then the people who use SharePoint, and then now especially the user community all the way to the admins of Microsoft Digital Workspace completely, which we're going to be diving into. I've been able to serve this community for a long time. I've had a Microsoft Certified Trainer designation for a long time, and then MVP, actually that I gave up, and then MVP since 2007. Love doing these panels, so thanks very much, Eric, Michael, and everybody at PixelMill for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. And Christian.
Yeah, I would just say, unlike Asif, I like the people first and then the technology.
Oh, that's not what I meant.
Okay. I know that's what you meant. I'm Christian Buckley. So I've been a MVP here since 2012. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director, and I just changed roles here a month ago. So I'm now moved over to one of my customers, AvePoint. I'm the Microsoft Go-to-Market Director. So I'm basically, my job is to make sure that AvePoint's product roadmap aligns with Microsoft's product roadmap, and it's a company that understands community and embraces the fact that I was already plugged in and involved in a lot of this kind of stuff. So it's great that I get to continue doing that. And of course, some people know me through my Collab Talk Tweet Jams, which we just kicked off the beginning of 10th year. So we finished 9, and yeah, we launched in 2012, January 2012. So yeah, it's exciting to continue doing those tweet jams, and so I absolutely love these kind of community panels and discussions, and it's a great way that I learn, but I also get to share and validate ideas, and yeah, so happy to be here.
Yeah, so check that out. So if you go to Twitter and search for #CollabTalk, all one word, you can see about that. The topic was, what was the
governance
topic?
and community management today.
I just participated in it too. It was governance. That was the questions I was answering. Was governance, digital workspace best practices. It was a really good one. I thought there was some really good feedback there. So go check it out if you want. And yeah, good stuff. Good. All right. Before we move on, one quick thing about PixelMill, the host of this this panel today. We're digital workspace experts based out of Northern California. We've been working in this technology within Microsoft sphere for quite a while, since '98. Been focusing on Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Teams, Azure, all the good things that make up digital workspaces. If you want to learn more about that, you want to see how we can help you, please do come to us, come talk to us at pixelmill.com, and we are going to be happy to engage with you. But let's move on though, because I think that's what we're here for now for the rest of the 55 minutes is, hey, this 2021 in digital workspace, where are we going? So with that, we're going to have a quick little poll. We want to kind of see where you are, the audience is. Michael, have you got that set up for us?
I'm muted, but I'm not muted anymore. It should be up on your screen now. What is your organization's greatest pain point? A couple options up there. We have too many disparate tools, no holistic vision. We don't have the right tools. Our team doesn't know where to find the right tools or info. Low user adoption. So we're gonna leave that up for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, there are so many questions we wanted to ask in this poll, and we decided in interest in time, because I really want to hear what the panelists have to say about just where are we going to the digital workspace. We've decided to keep it to just one poll question. If you have other specific questions though that are interesting to you, they're like you got big pain points coming up in 2021, you're really confused on the technology, or you really want to know about a specific thing, please do use that questions tab. Let's go ahead and we will do everything we can to get to those questions either directly or throughout our conversation here.
It's too bad that we can't respond as panelists. I would respond to a couple of them, actually.
I feel like my vote was suppressed there.
Exactly. Christian, that was on purpose for you, yes. Asif, what's your, I'd love to hear your advice, though. Yeah, sorry, Christian, I'll adjust.
I know.
There was a low user adoption, then there was the don't know what to use when, and then too many tools. And I'm like, wow, I hear a bunch of these things that I'm sure people want to say in a checkbox format instead of a radio button. That yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Michael, are you able to share those results?
I should be able to.
Say now?
Yep. Here we go. We're all
There
good.
we
So
go.
64% of you said we have too many disparate tools and no holistic vision. 29%, our team doesn't know where to find the right tools or info, and 7% low user adoption. So obviously there's a high low here, but a little bit of help needed everywhere. Looks like.
Yeah. I think it's interesting as well. None of you said you don't have the right tools. So
yeah,
the smorgasbord available to us, the Microsoft 365 and partner ecosystem provides what we need. Now it's a matter of we have too many tools. What to use when? We don't know where to find anything. And the low user adoption. So that's super interesting.
That's exactly the way I would have ordered them as well. So, yep.
Don't disagree. But let's jump into it. So here's our thought, just so that everyone kind of knows. We've got some topics here around the major platforms on the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. We're going to spend a couple minutes sort of talking through where we see 2021 and beyond going with these specific tool sets. We're going to start with kind of the 4 of our bread and butter, which is SharePoint, which I think for all of us is evolving into the larger, broader ecosystem, but it's sort of what we all know a lot about. So yeah, I say we just jump right into it. So kind of anybody, we're gonna open up the panel right away. What's the foreseeable future? Like, what do you see as the foreseeable future of SharePoint? Some people are telling me, SharePoint's dead, it's going nowhere, it's all about Teams now. And, who needs SharePoint anymore? Anybody?
Teams needs SharePoint, right?
To operate, yes.
That's the funniest thing, where I used to get this all the time when Teams first came out and conference sessions saying, well, do we need SharePoint? And I'm like, come on, don't you know it's the back end? And most people did not know at that time.
Yeah.
I think that has changed, though. A lot of people know.
Or even more so, you'd see a well-designed intranet and people are like, yeah, that's what I need. I don't need that SharePoint thing. I want that. And they'd be like,
yeah.
that's built on SharePoint.
Exactly.
So
I
true.
mean, I usually tell people that SharePoint is the content services platform for all of Microsoft 365. If you see a file, it has to live somewhere. Well, guess where it's going to live? It's going to live in SharePoint so that you can apply all of the governance and compliance and guidance rules around that piece of content so you can manage it in a secure way. And so although you may observe that file in a variety of different places, you want it to live in a place where it can be managed and maintained securely and according to your data policies. So I think, and it also is the only place in the platform that can host a very special type of file called a page. And so again, essentially, SharePoint is that content platform for files and pages in Microsoft 365.
Yeah. I don't see that component going to another platform anytime soon. The value I see of SharePoint is becoming much more that foundational tool, not as front and center. It's going to be supporting everything else. I agree with the pages. It's still the place for Microsoft to store things, to store files, to store the lists and libraries. Even though Microsoft Lists is separate, it's still effectively based on top of SharePoint. So I think SharePoint's going to be as strong as ever. I just think it's going to diminish in the focus of it. The focus will be on other tool sets, maybe things like Teams or the Power Platform, but it's going to be empowered by SharePoint. So I think the future's bright, just different.
But also SharePoint is the storytelling platform. Like a page is how you tell stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need a place to host that content to tell those stories. How you deliver those stories, I think that's what might get distributed to a variety of places, but you need something that's good at that.
Yeah.
So
I think too, the way that from a governance perspective, broadly over the entire Microsoft 365 stack is, there's one discussion of, the which tool do we use when, and there's those scenarios. But what is getting to be a better and better story because of that foundation with SharePoint that's beneath each of those other workloads is that you can then start to have capabilities where our policies and procedures, our governance, our security, all those things are consistent across those workloads. And so if you're working within the stack, it's less and less of an issue around those compliance and governance and security needs because we have the same underlying infrastructure.
Yeah. So what are some features on the roadmap that you're seeing that are most interest to you in 2021 to empower the value of SharePoint?
Well, I want to answer that from an IA perspective. So as an information architect, I care about organizing content. And one way I'm super excited, one thing I'm super excited about is the SharePoint app bar, also known as global navigation for SharePoint. I actually have it in my tenant. It's pretty cool. It allows me to define navigation in a way I know will work, in a way I'm comfortable with, because it just uses the out-of-the-box hub or local site navigation. And then I can choose which, on my home site, which of those tiers I want to promote to become my global nav, and then it's everywhere. And so no matter what site I'm on, I have a quick and easy access to all of those curated global experiences, which I think is super, super cool. So I'm super excited about that. I'd also like to see associated hubs and the upcoming home site app for Teams. So I care a lot about intranets. I want to bring the intranet everywhere you're working. And so being able to bring it into Teams is a huge thing.
And I was going to mention what you just said right now. I'm so glad you mentioned that, so that intranet is not a desktop application. It's delivered through the web browser. And that's always been like that since the beginning, Netscape days and all that stuff, right? Or even before Mozilla and all. So that behavior cannot and will not change unless the internet decides to change itself into a Microsoft Teams type of a platform, which is not happening. So that interface and the communication mechanism through that web-based interface is not going anywhere. And I talk to many companies throughout every single week, many different companies, and that is still consistent. Yes, we need Teams, but we need web interfaces as well.
Yep.
So very true.
I'll give you that for the foreseeable future. I don't know if I'm willing to say 5, 10 years from now or 10 years from now, but absolutely for now, what we all would care about, I completely agree with that. And I don't say that in 10 years it's going to be totally different. I'm just saying I don't know if I'd go that far, but definitely now, absolutely. Sue, can you tell me more about the that app bar? When should people start to see it? Can you give a little more guidance around that?
The date in the roadmap is March 2021.
So April to June.
Well, it's tied, the whole thing is kind of tied. Perceiving it as obviously we could have it in the intranet without the home site app in Teams, being able to bring it into Teams, or bringing them out. It feels like they're sort of tied together because you're going to want both of those experiences, I think, at the same time. You have to have a home site in order to be able to take advantage of the app bar, and you also are going to need a home site in order to be able to bring your intranet into Teams. And it feels like we're going to want to be able to do both of those together, although they should be able to operate independently. As Asif said, you can have it on the web, even if you don't have it in Teams. And it's not an either or. To me, it's a both and. You deliver where people are working, period, so that I can get to it on any device, any place, anytime. So,
regarding timeline though, in this April or whatever timeline, I would not really count on it. I mean, Associated Hubs, when was that supposed to be?
It's a year ago, right? Yeah. It takes time for Microsoft they've got a lot of moving things. Some quick hits from me. I'm looking forward to some of the continued enhancements in branding, things like they're already rolling out some updates to header. Those are some easy things like that. Aren't we all excited that Spaces is rolling out? That was a little too sarcastic. SharePoint Spaces it's going to be available really soon. The page scheduling that's been occurring, that actually already started rolling out, but I think that's good, where you can schedule when the news is going to be posted. I wish it had a lot more, like unscheduled to be taken away, but hey, that's just me. New things happening over in the analytics side, over in the admin center, to try to get more data out. I still think there's going to be a lot of room for the partner ecosystem to provide even more tools and present it in a better way. But hey, at least Microsoft's making some investments there as well, continuing to. We're still seeing some stuff happening over in Mover. So if you're looking to migrate into SharePoint Online, Microsoft, when they made that Mover acquisition, they're investing in that to make more migration scenarios possible, which I think is a really good thing. I would really look forward to 2021. They should have some better content type management. This has been like the bane of SharePoint's existence for many years. But a lot of us still have issues with content types and managing them throughout our tenant now. And so Microsoft it's on the roadmap to be addressing this. So I'm hoping to see some good movement on 2021. I wish I could say all this stuff, hey, you could deal with today, but I think what Asif and Sue, what you've mentioned, is more like top of mind. These are things Microsoft actively said, we're rolling them out really, really soon. And I'm glad to see that you're already using some of them.
Yeah,
there's something really cool. I was gonna say there's a really cool announcement this week that I was over the moon about this, and it's little teeny but huge game changer if you work in a global organization. We got multilingual communication sites last year, which were really great. Just this week, there was an announcement about making the navigation for multilingual sites easier to manage. You can do it today, but you have to convert. If you either have to get a partner who has a different language on their computer and they have to have edit rights to your site, or you switch the language on your computer, wait 15 to 20 minutes for that to fully happen. Then you go in with that alternate language and change all the navigation. And then it's sticky for anyone who's set with that, has their computer set to that language. Now we're going to be able to do it. One person will be able to make the navigation labels multilingual. And that, I mean, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but because it's doable today, but it's painful. Yeah. And I think it's really going to be very, very helpful.
For many orgs, I think it will be important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in interest of time, we're going to keep moving on. Christian, you're going to have lots to say on other topics as well. And we can always come back to SharePoint as well. I'm sure we're going to with our next topic here in particular, which is looking at Microsoft Teams. So kind of same question here. And this could suck up another hour, but we'll keep it short. Like, what's the foreseeable future of Teams? What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I see that from your t-shirt.
Actually, going back to one of the things that Sue brought up, like the home sites and being able to integrate the intranet experience into Teams.
Yeah,
I mean, I heard a lot of people saying that, hey, they'd like to be able to incorporate that aspect of that organizational view into some of their teams, their project-related activities. And so, and people were asking, is it possible for me to go and build kind of a landing page, home page type thing for for a team, and lo and behold, hey, we have this feature that's coming.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's happening across all these. I think even going and looking at SharePoint, but certainly within Teams, so many just incremental upgrades, just things that are happening constantly. Are we all on the new, the latest UI? That experience with the icons and things out there, like just saw that change over in the last week. And so there's a lot to go in there and pay attention to. Every day it's like watch the inbox, the weekly message center things coming in. There's just a lot happening.
How about the pre-meeting join experience? I love that. That was like, oh my gosh, that's game changing for me.
It does make it easier, for sure.
So, well, I like the way that, Christian, you worded this incremental change. So, Sue, I agree with you, but it's like these incremental changes. It's like we still need more. But I'm glad there's these changes that are coming out. I'm glad that the pre-meeting is getting better, but like there's still more, I'm hoping. And I see a lot of that will occur over the next year and beyond.
Yeah, and so I like it too. And I'm glad that Microsoft is doing what other solutions out there have done for a long time in that regard. There's a lot of features like that where I think due to COVID, due to the everybody remote working, that has and I'm very happy about, since I've been working remotely for a decade, that they've shifted their focus in a lot of different areas to go in and speed up the delivery of some of these things that are specifically for remote work. But that's one of those things where I think we're so much now, the importance of meetings, Microsoft finally the past 6 months has really understood the value and the importance of meetings.
Mm-hmm. I was reading a Wall Street Journal article, and it was on the front page, at least the digital version of Wall Street Journal, where it was talking about how Microsoft itself has gotten so much traction in the last year or so. And I think in the first couple of paragraphs, it mentioned Teams. Then it mentioned a quote by Satya Nadella, CEO, about Teams. That, plus the fact, which we all know on the other side, Salesforce is buying, I think it's not completed yet, Slack.
Yep.
And keeping those things in mind, that this is going to be, as Satya has called it, the year of Teams. I've had a customer ask me, what do you mean a year of Teams? What about 2020? That was a year of Teams, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, I think that was where...
I think.
It was a year of
That's debatable. That's debatable.
All right, moving on. Don't put that part on that one.
That's debatable. But yeah, so 2020, we kind of got pushed. So Microsoft got pushed and they had to react a lot. Now in 2021, it's going to be a lot of proactiveness in Teams. That's going to be the only difference. So now let's think about it instead of just throw things in there. At least that's the hope. But I definitely see 2021 being super year of Teams. Yammer, I won't go in there right now, but I had some comments about that. I'll hold off.
How do you guys feel about the pace of change, though? Christian, I know you and I have talked about this before.
If you're a customer of SaaS applications outside of Microsoft's sphere, you're already used to it. So us as a company, for example, we were a customer for Salesforce for a long time, HubSpot for a long time, and other SaaS applications. So for us, when this changed, and our company also moved from Google apps back in the day to Microsoft apps, it was like, all right, that's how it is. It's always been like that. But many of our customers are not used to it, and that's a huge.
There's a big difference when your entire desktop, your productivity suite, and all of the things are rolled up within that. Yeah, and I agree with your statement, but for most people, it has been a single cloud app or solution that they've been leveraging that has been delivered via that vehicle, not everything that they work on over the course of the day, your Windows, your Office suite, all of the tools and platforms. So it's been an adjustment, and and I know Microsoft has been back and forth with this, and I mentioned, like, we have the, it's supposed to be weekly, we're getting them more frequently, but like the message center updates and things that are around there, and we're still to some degree having to chase, like, look at the roadmap site, following various product marketing team members' blogs, as well as the Microsoft blog, as well as these different places in tech community. Unfortunately, it's still just a ton of information coming from different directions.
Yeah, it isn't.
So It's difficult, and that's a question that I'm continuing to hear people ask me. I just heard it last week. Somebody said, "Well, how do you keep up with stuff?" I'm like, I don't.
You don't, yeah.
I'm constantly feeling like I'm playing catch up.
There is a session that Matt Wade, another community leader in our space, has done at a couple different conferences. I'm sure there's a recording of it from Ignite or something. But if you search for Matt Wade, W-A-D-E, he's done sessions on keeping up with what's going on in Microsoft 365. I'm sure you'll find it. It might be a good listen for any of you that are listening on what are some of the major things that major people to listen to. There's a couple of podcasts as well that try to distill down what's happening into a short bite every week, every couple of weeks. It's hard. I can't.
That's for people like us. I think if you're managing the deployment of Microsoft 365 in your organization, you're responsible for knowing all those things. But the challenge, I think, is that the pace of change is equally as rapid and for everyone using all of these tools, and they don't have the time or the information to keep up with them. That's what I was asking, wondering how you felt about that, Christian, because I think that people that we deal with, the real people, your people first. Asif was technology first, of course. But the real people who use these tools every day, they're not us. They're not focused on the Microsoft ecosystem. They're getting work done.
And look at the nuances there, right? Yeah, exactly. And because some of the changes are so incremental and subtle, to see what's actually happening and watch it over time. And of course, we understand some of the background discussion that's happening and the various MVP calls and things of, going into the thought process around these things. But you have to think of it from the end user standpoint where, suddenly the UX just changes and what is this thing? And then they go chasing information to go find out what that is. And and the training personnel within a large company that is like, what do we need to do? And we don't have the budget to go in more than once a year and train people on the latest everything that's out there. And yet it's already too late.
You're saying some sort of contextual technology on top of applications would be required to?
Something like that.
Something like that. I wish something like that existed.
I don't know. Does that exist, Asif?
I think so.
Swinging this back to Teams before we move on. So any of you have any key features that are on the roadmap for more in the 2021 or Q1, Q2-ish of 2021 that that does excite you, that you think is pretty interesting? What should our listeners be looking out for? What should they be really looking into?
Go ahead, guys.
I've got a couple. I'll just start off. So they're going to continue to, these are all announcements that I've seen through the roadmap. So some of them are already rolling out and whatnot. The big one that I think is being asked for a lot is the breakout rooms, excuse me. So the idea here is when you're having meetings, you can then split people off into break rooms that a moderator can more manage collectively and then bring them all back together. I think that's going to be really good. The multi-window chat has been out for most people. I think it still might be, I don't know if it's fully out, but it might be. That was huge to be able to split out chats. And they're continuing to increase the amount of people that can be in groups, in org-wide teams, larger meeting supports with things like live transcript and speaker attributions. I think these are going to be really important in 2021 to further allow us to use the meeting spaces that are there to support the meetings that we're having. So, and that goes back to, I think, Sue, like the original thing you were talking about is, some of the meeting experiences. And the last one I want to talk about, that this is more hopeful because I've not seen it, but they're talking about it, stronger search. Actually, it is on the roadmap, but I need to be able to search teams more robustly, and I just feel as though it's a little lacking right now.
Yeah, there's some incremental, changes. That there's some announcements. In fact, I retweeted something that Bill Bear is working on over at his organization over there. Yeah, there's always going to be room for improvement, especially as they're in search, especially as they're adding to the technology and expanding the need. So I'm sure that the search team is feeling like they're chasing each of the workloads as well.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, are the breakout rooms, are they GA or is it still rolling out?
We have it.
Yeah, I've got it as well.
As far as I know.
GA too.
So, I don't think everybody has it, but
I don't think we have them right now.
That's going on right now, but it's very cool.
Yeah, we do as well. And you're right. It was something that was going to happen. I'm so glad it did for many organizations like ours, at least, because I mean, otherwise Zoom is the only option. And Z is the Zoom is a bad word in the Microsoft ecosystem, like Google used to be. So I'm so glad that we have that option now, at least for many of us within Teams.
And that's a great example of just the reality of the work from home, the COVID experience that drove the prioritization or the reprioritization, and where they went after and built out that capability. So it's great to see. And it's also with so many, we have not even scratched what's happening in the education sector, and a lot of the features that are driven by the needs there, and Microsoft competing with these other platforms in that space.
The frontline worker support in Teams has a lot on the calendar for this year, but it's a space I'm not in much. But I know that if that's something you're interested in, check out the Microsoft Teams roadmap. They're doing a lot of stuff in frontline worker, first line worker, excuse me. Okay, in the interest of time, we got to keep moving forward. So Sue, I'm sure you've got plenty to add as well. The next topic we're going to look at would be the Power Platform. But if we want to come back to Teams a little bit and how we talk about the Power Platform, by all means, let's include that. Kind of my question here is, again, so like what's new at the Power Platform? Like what are we seeing with the Power Platform? Is there anything on the roadmap that does excite you that you think our audience would really be interested in?
The audience that you have over here might be more SharePoint based audience, but if there were more people who have experience with Dynamics, they would tell you that, oh, well, yeah, we've been using Power Platform for a while, because Dynamics, a lot of the modules are built with Power Apps and all, right? Yeah. And that's how you extend it. And there's that the fluid, what is it called, fluid interface or something like that in Dynamics is all completely Power Apps. So I think the Power Apps story specifically, and also Power Automate, is much stronger in that side of the field that I see compared to what we have been. They're already used to it. They're already doing more. And that cross-pollination now of being able to do it for your sales CRM, your customer service in Dynamics, and your collaboration in SharePoint, and everything else, and doing it back and forth with the Power tools, that's pretty awesome, especially for those of us who came from the SharePoint Microsoft 365 side and went into Dynamics, which is what I did.
Well, you're seeing some of that cross-pollination, of course, of Power Automate, for example, through the app experience in Teams. And so that's something that is, I think it's generally available now, but some of that capability to go in there and build some very simple workflows, and so it's just that they've put this, within the app package, deployed within Teams, but they're trying to make it easier for people to go in and to extend and automate inside of Teams using those tools. So that's something that's relatively new.
When you do a Google search on Power Platform roadmap, what I find is it isn't from the Power Automate side, from the Power App side. They're not as robust and as lengthy as the Microsoft 365 roadmap might be. And it kind of makes sense to me. I mean, like Power Apps and Power Automate, they help you provide a low-code, no-code solution kind of thing, and they provide you some automation components. A lot of the support really comes in the connectors and some of the backend components. So it's still, I think, the roadmap itself is just continued support and continued improvements in the connectors and the way things work. Recently, in the last year or so, like Power BI got more of a responsive layout so that it's easier to build a Power App that could work across multiple viewports without any problems. But in general, it's just kind of like more of the same. I think the foreseeable future, though, for these, now Power BI is a little different to me. It's also a space I don't spend a lot of time in. In general, though, the Power Platform, I think, has a very bright future as we talk about the cross-pollination. Of course, the Dynamics side, Dynamics is who owns the Power Platform. I definitely see, though, the M365 side using it a lot more, and it's already being heavily integrated. I mean, that's basically the way to build forms and reports and automation within SharePoint now. It connects so well within Teams. It's just so easy to create simple components, simple tools, even to activate the Power Apps that Microsoft provides for free and just start using them. We have a meetings Power App that we use on most of our meetings, and it's free. It's super cool, and we can still customize it if we need to. So yeah, I think that I wish I could say there were some cool things that I could see coming in 2021. I don't really have anything on my list that's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But I think the future is bright, and I would recommend anybody looking to really facilitate their digital workspace in 2021, consider how the Power Platform is going to be able to help you, because I think you'll find in particular Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate they're going to help you through automation, which is super important, as well as building those apps, those kind of low-code, no-code, simple apps that you just want to build quickly and not have to go to your development team that's going to take you a month to create something that Power Apps can maybe do in a day or two.
Well, I think Microsoft understands too that a lot of their mind share that's around, Teams #1 and SharePoint behind that is making it easier to consume some of the Power Automate, Power Apps, the Power Virtual Agent. So we're going to go create a bot. In fact, I've got a blog post on this. There was an announcement out about building a quicker, easier way to build it, like under 5 minutes. Build your own chat bot inside of Teams using Power Virtual Agent. So they're realizing that they need to make it easy for the majority of people that aren't familiar, aren't going and doing things over with the Power Apps side of things, and they're saying, well, I'm not an IT pro, I'm not a dev, I'm not, even though these are low to no code solutions, but it's a great entry point over within the environment that they are familiar with the Teams environment.
Absolutely.
There has been a lot of hires also within Microsoft for the whole Power Platform in the year 2020. So the indication is there that they're going to be putting a lot of effort and manpower, woman power behind Power Platform and People Power in 2021.
Good. Sue, anything you wanted to add to this topic? I'm going to move on otherwise.
No, I mean, I just think that one of the things I think is the coolest about the Power Platform is it allows business users to create applications to solve their needs without waiting on IT. So if we all go back to the whole people focus. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you don't need some IT knowledge in order to get much out of this. These are low code, not no knowledge of coding.
Yes,
I agree with you.
Basic logic, and but it's somebody who, I mean, a lot of these tools that allow people that have the depth in their business process understanding, the mechanics of what you need to accomplish, what you need to build, what the process is, the business outcomes. You can then go and piece together on the technology side, a solution that'll help automate that.
Let me go ahead and declare something that I've not publicly declared before. It's true, but I've not talked about this. I was pretty huge in depth into SharePoint Designer and InfoPath back in the day. I think all three of you know that. One of the reasons I stopped being in depth with the Power Apps and Power Automate is because I saw that a lot more developer crowd is the one that was coming there. And the attraction that I had of people who were end users and power users coming into SharePoint Designer and InfoPath was decreasing, unfortunately.
Oh.
And that's why this is back in the day, years ago. I'm like, you know what, this is not for me anymore. This is not attracting my audience specifically. Because I agree with you. So folks who are coming into it from a non-technology, non-computer, non-coding background do have a tough time with these technologies versus the ones that I used to teach on with SharePoint Designer and InfoPath.
Yeah, although it's possible, you just have to, again, it's a matter of committing to learning.
Of course.
Yeah.
But they're non-trivial to learn, but they don't require an IT degree. So I think they are incredibly empowering. But let anyone think that, oh, I can just go do this. It's not quite that easy.
Yeah, you still have to know ideas on connections and logic flow to get to make a flow within Power Automate. You're going to need to know some minor UI design and some connection points to build a Power App to do something, to create a form. You got to understand fields, but you don't have to know how to code it. You're able to really move blocks around. And then when you say, okay, now enter this into SharePoint, you need to understand what that means, what a SharePoint list is. You need to understand how field data would get pushed into a list, but you don't have to think about, oh, well, what's the API to do it? That's handled for you.
You know what I love too is every demo I've ever seen of Power BI as that like, wow, I could just go do that, and people don't understand like how much data cleanup and massaging and everything. Right. Those little sample data sets that they throw at you to go and build a demo is like are nothing like what your data actually looks like.
Power BI is super powerful, but yes, the demos I see are a lot of smoke and mirrors. But it's super powerful. It really is. I think the Power BI is. It's just, it's. But you don't have to be a data scientist to use it, which is nice.
No, But if you have, if you are data science accessible,
Okay, so I want to spend the last half of this talking about kind of like where we see things happening in the digital workspace and tips for teamwork success. So I'm going to start with the big one here. This was a hard one for me, by the way. So what's digital collaboration? What's it going to look like in 2022, like next year, not just this year, but next year? But can you help our listeners? Like, what do you think, like in 2025 or 5 to 6, 4 or 5 years from now? What's digital collaboration going to look like? And good luck looking into this crystal ball because. But anyone want to start with that at all?
Yeah, I could start with that if you like.
Please.
I've been watching my kids, who are all at home right now, learning from home, use these technologies. First, I believe in middle school, my son, my oldest, was using Google Apps, and then in high school he started using Microsoft 365, and the transition was seamless. It was like, all right, it's just whatever, Word kind of stuff, Excel kind of stuff, or whatever. But on the other hand, when you look at adults, them transition, it was always very difficult. It was like, oh my God, I got to do this differently. I got to do it right now. That the digital nativity, just the seamless experience of doing that has gotten a lot better as I've watched folks in my personal life, like my parents, and also in professional life, like my customers, get a lot more comfortable with these digital tools that kids felt a no-brainer. So I see that comfort level increasing in 21, 22 and beyond, where it just becomes like, okay, I just use it instead of I have to learn it and do all that stuff with it. Just help is available and I use it, and that's it.
So the digital literacy of the incoming workforce is going to really drive that, maybe a little less resistance to some of the change because it's just normal.
Well, it's not just the upcoming workforce. I was also referring to the current workforce, which was so resistant, but because of 2020 and what happened, unfortunately, it kind of everybody got pushed into it, and there was just no other choice. So that became a lot more natural for everybody.
I agree that everyone got pushed into it, but I would not necessarily that everyone got pushed into it well. And I think 2021, 2022 are going to be the year of reckoning. Like, we blasted our way into Teams. Holy crap.
I like that better than the year of Teams or whatever. It's the year of reckoning. You now
have to go back and say, hey, did we form a team? I saw this actually at a client recently that we're really struggling. Did we make a private channel when we should have made a team? Did we run out of private channels because we had to apply to an act of Congress? Or
I wanted to steal that quote. I like that quote, Sue. You told me that one before. I feel that's so true.
We now we have to take 21 and look back and say, hey, we stormed and formed and normed, and oh my God, we now have to clean up our act a little bit and figure out how are we going to, as an IT department, support the way that people work in the way they want to work in a way that is both governed and compliant. And we may let some of that go. We may have let some of that go a little bit, and it's very hard to pull back in the reins, but we also let people go with no training. There was really no time to train people. And so people are not necessarily using the technologies that they're using to their fullest capability. I have multiple clients where people have told me, oh, wait, you can have files in Teams? I thought it was just for meetings.
Yeah.
So
or in a little things like I just somebody's eyes widened when I pointed out that there's 3 or 4 of us in a chat. I said, let me just add a tab here and let's add that permanent to our ongoing chat discussion. Like, I didn't know you could do that. It's still just the 3 of us, but all the tools that we need, like right there, like it's a full team, and they had no idea. Like, look up on the top. That's plus mark. Add a tab. Yeah.
I think we had to roll things out quickly, and we did that. And I think now we're going to have to take some time to think about, hey, did we empower people with the knowledge and literacy that they need to take fullest advantage of the tools? Did we think about how we might want to govern this content going forward? Do we need to sort of make teams out of channels, combine channels into channels, figure out what, I heard another client told me that, oh yeah, I made a team, I need a SharePoint site to go with it. I'm like, and like, did we really?
Well, let me fix that for you. Done. Here's my bill.
I'll give you one right now. So again, explaining to people how to get the best value from the things that we rolled out quickly. And that may mean introducing a little governance backwards or introducing training backwards. And all of this is challenging and not that I have any answers for this, but it's challenging because the platforms on which we're trying to train and optimize are a moving target. And so sometimes while in general the approach may work, the capabilities that people may need are evolving, and we have to learn to live with that as well. So I think we have, at least in the short term, we need to do some reckoning with what we did quickly to align with the way people are working. And then going forward, we just need to be able to be flexibly adapt to the way people are working. So people will continue to storm and form and norm teams. We need work teams, not capital T teams. We need to have technologies that adapt to the way people work, that allow people to work the way they want to work, and are easy to both come together and take apart if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It sounds like there's going to be a very healthy opportunity for the partner ecosystem out there, for ISV solution and consulting partners to go and help people. But I think it just points back to the survey that we had right at the top of this and how people respond to that. I think more than anything, we keep hearing which tool do we use when, but I think people realize, they understand the basics of what the tools they have can do, but they are not feeling like they're optimized at all across those things. They want help. What's the best way to use this? And they turn to Microsoft and say, tell me the right tools that I should be. It's not which tool to use when, so much as here's how I'm using them. I'm getting stuff done. Is this the best way to do that? I just mentioned to somebody this morning, was talking about, for those of us, we all remember Sadie's the SharePoint maturity model, and you have Mark Anderson and the Sypraxis team that led the community development of the content around the Microsoft 365 maturity model. But that approach of going and looking at a baseline and having the benefit, Microsoft sees the benefit of this, of saying, here's maybe across verticals or across all users of the platform, here's basically where we see the industry usage of each of the individual workloads, so that you can then go in and start measuring, leveraging productivity score. My hope for 2021, by the way, is that people understand that productivity score and a bunch of the analytics that are being captured are not a scary or evil thing. We just need to understand how to leverage it and to improve ourselves and our businesses. But I think that's going to be a key to it. You can't improve something if you don't understand where you are today.
Yeah. You
have to have that baseline. You might be doing well in some areas and not so well in other areas. See where you are, understand, what's out there. And then when you start taking in, MVPs, speaking at a conference, sharing best practices on something, say, this is where that fits and that could really help us, or recognize that's a couple leaps away from where we really are. Maybe we need to get to, but work out a plan for us to get a couple steps further. But I think 2021, I think this fits in with the reckoning that'll happen. It's for people to do an assessment of where they are and then put plans in place. So just don't jump to throw more technology, or even just jump to just hire somebody to fix it, but to really step back and look at what are we doing well, what are we not doing well, and where are we struggling, where are we experiencing friction, and then build a plan from there that will organically move your organization up.
Or incrementally, like you're not going to be able to bang this. I think that's a really good point, is that you're going to have
much more we can talk about the digital workspace for sure. I like the future. My final quick thoughts on that 2025 looking out. I am of the belief that we're not going back, but we're going to have some Jack Walshes appear that reinvents the idea that we should all be in the office. But I think for most organizations, that mixed workforce where people are not going to be in the office 5 days a week, it's going to be a reality. I mean, I think the home builders deciding, at least in the US, that that home office space is being built into new homes. I think as we're creating these spaces, they're going to be used 1, 2, 3 days a week. And so the digital tool set will need to be there to enable and foster those kind of environments where you can have the medias and the spaces, and they'll be even stronger. I think video is going to be an interesting one. I do think that that's going to have to be something that we're going to have to become more comfortable with, that you can't just be in your pajamas all day. You need to get dressed for work, even if you're staying home that day for that reason.
For the majority of people out there, I'd also say, welcome to our world of itemized deductions.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. Yes.
Yeah.
On the third-party tool side, I think that there are some good opportunities there. Like my notes when I was thinking about this were things around like guidance and governance and enforcement and monitoring, like these tools that, you know, they're AvePoint-like tools, they're VisualSP-like tools. They're going to help you in spaces that Microsoft just isn't going to. They might have a piece of it, but they're never going to go to the depth you're going to be looking for. But I also see the huge ecosystem still for targeted solutions for like specific verticals, specific Teams apps or components that or solutions for SharePoint for document management for very specific requirements where it's, you know, things that it's a solution of the 25 lists that are needed and the 320 content or site columns for content types to really manage that data really well. I think that there's going to be great solutions that are still viable now and in the future that I don't think that Microsoft is really going to hit too much. Go ahead, Asif, and we'll then move on here.
I wasn't really going to say anything. I was
going to say something. Eric, one last thing is that one thing that I do think is where things are going is also the multi-cloud. You know, there are very few companies that exist out there that are like all the Microsoft stack. The reality is that we have all these other different solutions. So when you talk about, you know, migration, movement of content, we talk about governance across the various workloads, and it's not just going to be Microsoft technologies. And I think Microsoft's participation, you know, with partnerships with like Adobe and SAP and other companies to make it easier for data to be moved and shared in between these disparate, you know, applications and solutions is going to become increasingly important as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so we kind of have like a lightning round of questions I'd love to ask in the final 8 minutes we have here. But let's some of the questions I think are really on people's mind, which is like, what's the top thing an organization should be considering in order to be successful with Microsoft 365 in 2021? So think like immediate. What's like one thing on the top of your mind that these organizations, our listeners, should be thinking about to be successful with Microsoft 365?
Yeah, I'll throw one thing in there. Something that I talk about all the time is, please do not only think about migrating your systems and technology, think about your users as well. Do not forget the users, otherwise that empty airplane analogy that I put up in all my sessions at the beginning was like, hey, you got this beautiful airplanes with empty seats. What's the point? I've seen that since the beginning of time with Microsoft. So it's gonna be the same thing if you keep on doing the same mistakes.
Yeah. I'm going to steal Sue's answer, which is, and it's exactly what Asif just said. The one thing for me, you got to listen to your users. You got to go talk to them. You got to find out what they need. Totally ask them the question, what do you want? Please don't do that. Help them to discover what it is that they want and need and build the solutions to match that. And that's what you need to be focusing on the time. That's how you're going to be successful. Just building something cool because you think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be that empty airplane.
Well, and my add onto that is I think very much in alignment with it is around that having a transparent change management model. So you're not going to know all the answers, but you're going to have things that you're working on, and you need to be receptive to feedback and have those feedback loops. But if you make those things transparent and your users, as you're working on building something out, you might find halfway down that path where users like, no, that's not what we actually need. Now that we're starting to see the early results of you building this out, so you have to have those feedback mechanisms. You have to be, have a change management model that people feel like they can participate in and they see what's happening and can provide their input, because otherwise you've just created yet another silo. And so again, it goes back to the core is, involving and listening to your end users.
Sue, anything that top of mind?
I think you guys have covered
our answers.
Yeah. Well, so then, the next question I have then, and Sue, maybe we'll start with you just because I do want to continue to hear your opinion here. So let's look at Microsoft tools in general. What tool or tools should the listeners and organizations should be prioritizing in 2021 if they're not already using them or they're not utilizing them well within the remote workforce? And you can't say Teams, because I would argue, for me, Teams is going to be one that you should be prioritizing in Digital Workspace. But is there another tool within M365 that people should really be prioritizing in 2021? Is there an answer to that besides all of them?
The answer is that that's the wrong question. So you don't want to prioritize a tool. You want to prioritize the solution to a business problem. So if you don't understand your organizational big rocks, where you're going and where the pain points are, you cannot define a tool. Tools are only work when they solve a problem that I have. Otherwise, I am not going to use that tool. I will find another way to do whatever I need to do. If it's not my problem, I'm not going to pay attention. So we need to really focus on what are the business outcome goals we are trying to achieve, and then align our tools and the features of those tools that we promote and train on to those problems. The tools that we get from Microsoft 365 have a vast amount of capabilities that most of us never touch. I mean, I use Microsoft Word and PowerPoint every day. There are a gazillion things you can do in PowerPoint that I don't even know that it can do unless someone sends me an example of it, because it takes time to learn how to do that. But I can make a killer presentation without that. Yes, could I take it to the next level? For sure. But again, you have to focus on, I'm not taking the time to learn that because I have other, big rock business goals. I think we have to think about tools that way. Train people on the tools that they need to get their jobs done and on the features that they need that are going to solve a compelling business problem for them. And then you can evolve your vision with an ongoing change management exercise to introduce people to tools at the time that they need them. Asif and I talk about this all the time.
Yes, we do.
Moment of need, not because they might need it in the future. It's going to be sticky anyways. You need to make people productive and comfortable, and align the tool to the business problem. And I think then it's so much easier to think this through. I mean,
I'll add something to what you're saying. So, and yes, we have talked about this too many times in classes and sessions, outside of sessions and all. I want to quantify this and solidify this a little bit further though. So instead of the obvious answer of it depends, which all of us say all the time, I'm going to quantify it a little bit further. I've asked this same exact question and I've seen the responses and I've seen the behavior from many, many organizations just because of my job requires talking to so many organizations and every week. And there is a trend that I have noticed, which makes complete sense. I completely agree, Eric. Teams, and Christian, obviously, your shirt, I agree with your shirt. Teams is first, it's a non-brainer. After that, there is one tool that I have seen most organizations go to, and it makes complete sense, and that's OneDrive. So, of course, keeping Outlook out, because that's automatic, Teams out, that's automatic. The next one after that is OneDrive, because we've all been so used to the regular G drive, H drive, and all that stuff, and it exists in every company. Taking that mindset and transferring it to OneDrive has been that big trend that I've seen almost organizations think about, and many of them do successfully.
Don't you need OneDrive before Teams? Because if you don't have OneDrive, where would you store a document attachment? Where would it?
I meant you're right, but more intentionally. Just like SharePoint obviously has to exist for Teams to exist. It's not about just the existence of it, but intentionally getting people to use it as part of their behavior. That is getting better and better, especially now that they understand, listen, OneDrive doesn't have to be this hairy whatever thing. Yes, I have the interface web and I have the Windows Explorer interface that I can go into. Either way, this is my drive. Doesn't matter if I'm working from home or working in the office. Now everything's protected that I'm saving as an individual, not just in Teams and SharePoint everywhere, but everything that I'm creating is in OneDrive. So I've seen that trend.
I was going to share a couple of my favorite features, but after what Sue said about focusing on the outcomes of that side, it just seems petty and empty, so I won't.
Okay, so we got like literally a minute left, so unfortunately, so many other things I'd love to talk about. Gosh, I'd like to give you each about 15 seconds to say something. What I'm thinking is is there like one piece of advice that organizations that are trying this year of transformation or cleanup that you would give, and we'll just go through again, Sue, Asif, Christian, but I want to also say, thank you all for joining us. What kind of advice what's that one piece of advice, Sue, that you would give for organizations trying to clean up their rushed 2020?
Understand the business, focus on the people.
There you go. And we all might say that, but awesome.
Yeah, continuous feedback loop, just like Sue said right now and Christian said before, that has to be there, continuous feedback loop from your people.
And one thing I'd say is understand the data, your content lifecycle, your data management requirements. are just so critical. So no matter what you're doing, go forward, understand the constraints that you need to have in place as you're designed to make sure that you're at the very least not breaking anything while you're on the journey.
Yeah. So good. Oh, I love talking to you all. Thank you all so much. Michael, I'm going to send it right back to you. But again, thank you, attendees. Thank you, panel. Love you guys. I'm looking forward to when we have a conference when I can see you all in person and give you 6 foot away hugs or something. But
thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Our next session next month will be about a Microsoft search, so stay tuned for more information on that. Christian, Asif, Sue, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, thanks for being here. Have a safe rest of your Thursday. Have a great week going into the weekend, and we'll see you all down the road. Take it easy, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you all. Bye all.
Bye.